Check it, check it, check it. Welcome back to the channel. This is Blackbook session number 21. It's a piece I laid down for the homie Makesir on my Art Primo Blackbook when I first started doing live streams. The plan was to chef something up in the moment while kicking it with you guys. So I kicked it off with the M. That's where the story begins. I tried my best to give it some steez since it's the first letter. The first letter is always gonna set off the flow, so I broke the outside legs in half, extended the bottom portions out, and swiftly brought some bottom extensions to close it back up. I moved on to the A and kept the bottom portion of it real similar to the M. I know the camera focus gets a little blurry here, so my apologies. I was new to the streaming game and didn't know how to turn off autofocus, but it clears up soon. I moved on to the K and kept the flow simple. It has its normal structure, just with a little bit more flair on the bottom right leg of it. The Z was pretty normal as well. It had a hint of flow. The R has to be my favorite though. It came out real steezy. If you look closely, the bottom right leg of the R has some flair. Some of the other letters also have. I think that's what I would consider a bit of flow. I'm aware the Z doesn't have it, but most of the other letters do. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you agree or if you would call it something else. I went ahead and darkened up some of the lines I was going to be using, and that was pretty much the sketch right there. I moved on to the filling and got straight to it. I did my signature zigzag / splat technique. I picked up a light gray Sharpie and started filling in random areas in my sketch. A little bit on the M, a little bit on the A, the K, and the rest of the letters, letting the light gray fade off into the white page using a zigzag motion. I then brought in a darker gray and started filling in some areas that I left colorless. I like flaring the darker gray onto the lighter gray using crazy zigzags. I think that shit is tight. It's like a steezy blend. With that darker gray marker, I also blow a splat of pigment onto the colorless area, giving the fill-in some more creative ism. I repeat that until everything on the sketch is pretty much covered in a way that I rock with. To add an extra layer of creative ism, I came through with the aqua green posca and threw a couple more splats up in the fill-in. That aqua green though, truly a beautiful color. I added a couple more zigzags using it throughout the letters to complete the fill-in. I felt the left and right letter needed just a bit more add-ons, so I threw in some arrows stemming out of them. Then it was a wrap, sketch and fill-in complete. Now it was time for the outline. Since the fill-in was really light, I wanted to use a dark, bold color. So like most sessions, I came through with the black Sharpie. I started outlining the physique of my letter M and also outlining the little arrow I had added. I do my best to get those lines straight and steady on every letter. It's important to remember how my initial sketch looked in my head. You know, like where the lines meet and what extensions are running across each other. Little things like that will get lost in the midst of the fill-in if you use the splat technique. To add some sharpness on the letters, I came through with the fine point black Sharpie. It helps me distinguish the structure of the letter more without using such a chunky marker like the black Sharpie. You really get to see and get a sense of the letter structure way more while putting them together. I say it all the time, it's like a puzzle. So remember, keep your vision sharp. Dropping some fine lines also come in clutch for little details that'll flow with your outline, like cuts for example, or little vents in the letters, like my boy Shada likes to call them. Those little vents will have your letters looking like they have extra extensions. It's a real dope add-on. I decided to have the 3D going up towards the middle, so I envisioned a dot in the center of the page, also known as a vantage point. I started applying lines going towards that dot at every reflex angle on each letter. The lines that I applied on each reflex angle formed either to be horizontal or diagonal ones. I made sure to stop them at around half an inch's length. When applying these lines for the 3D, you want to focus on the outline of your letters where the lines break in half-ish and create these things called reflex angles. That's going to help guide you and help you understand where your lines have to be correctly placed and positioned to start forming your 3D. What I noticed is that the farther away a letter is, the more diagonal the lines will be, while the more closer a letter is, the more horizontal the lines will be, since the vantage point is right above them. Just compare the 3D lines of the K to the M and the R if you need to get a better understanding of what I mean. Once I felt confident that everything was in place, I went ahead and closed up the 3D of my letters by flowing in a parallel manner with the original structure of my letters. The only difference being the 1/2 inch of space I had added to create the 3D effect. I went ahead and added an extra layer of depth to the 3D by coloring all of the empty spaces I had just created black. I'll be having a video coming out soon on 5 different directions you can apply your 3D, so stay tuned for that. This is just one of them. I went back to the letters and added some slices running through them, making them look cut up a bit, like a sheet of metal. I knocked out these extra details with a fine point Sharpie, on top of the other details I had already added. After that is when I moved on to my background. I remember asking the team on the live stream what color we should roll with, and we pretty much decided on like a navy blue. So I picked up an alcohol marker and started filling in the bottom left side of the piece. I noticed that the marker started running out, so I put it down to let the pigment rebuild. On the top half of the piece, I went with a cool gray color that kind of looked lighter than the navy blue to give it kind of a fading effect. I went with the cement wall for the background. I have a whole video breaking down how to apply it, so make sure you check that out if you're digging the background and want to apply it behind your letters. Once I added the outline, it was a wrap. I used a yellow Posca and went all around the border of the letters, and I filled in empty pockets that were in between the letters. Applying the outer outline this color not only helped the letters stand out even more, but it also helped the piece develop more creative-ism. Just look at the way everything stands out now. Sheesh. Now, one of my favorite things to do, the inner highlights with the Molotov white 1.5mm nib. Using this marker, I went around the inside of each letter and applied it to the border of the outline and the fill-in, giving each letter a highlight to make it glow. When doing this, you want to make sure not to miss anything. That means even getting the little cuts in the letters, as well as the details you've applied to your letters, like the vents and slices. Adding highlights to your letters is a good method to enhance them. It's one of my favorite things to do. I added some floating bricks in the background to give the page more effect. I also hit the border of the letters with another layer using a Posca black to keep the lines nice, sharp, and bold. Now, for the details inside the 3D, I went with speed lines. I used a pink Posca to execute these. Speed lines are pretty simple to apply. All you have to do is flare a line pretty quickly on the inside of your 3D towards the direction of your vantage point, aka the little dot that all of your 3D is going towards. I like to have 2 lines right next to each other. One long one that reaches more of the vantage point and a shorter one that goes under it. That's usually my rundown when I do these. But in this piece, I switched it up a little bit and added weight onto the speed lines. This is probably like the only time I've done this, and I gotta say, it's a pretty dope look. I feel like it made the piece look more robotic in a sense. I definitely have to try this out again on future pieces. I added some more speed lines, and you could tell the difference that it made to the 3D and the effect it had to the overall piece. If you want to see these more, feel free to remind me on the live streams. If you tap into the live streams, you might know what time it is. It's the roll call. For the roll call, I added everyone that tapped into the stream that day. This is another one of my favorite things to do, adding a little hit up for every individual that joined me on the journey of this piece. The roll call is going to be a reoccurring thing on the following Blackbook sessions that I publish, since a lot of the footage I have captured was while I was live streaming on YouTube, working on the installment of Writers Up Next Volume 1, a Blackbook that the community and myself were able to fully complete in the span of a couple months. So be prepared and stay tuned for what's about to come. Shout out to Rec, Haunt, Nova, Gork, Chota One, Eyes, Rain, Necro, Savior, Dobie, Jasky, Schnaps, Rescue, and that boy Makes-er for joining me on this piece. And shout out to the whole Writers Up Next community. This piece was a fly one. If you're new to the game and want to step up the details on your letters, your letter fill-ins, or your background details, feel free to click on any of these 3 videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content like this if you haven't already. Until next time, keep writing and developing your skills. Peace.